What's going on, everybody? This is Randall Barnes, the founder of HBCU Pulse and the host of HBCU Pulse Radio, in the building for another special video on today where we're talking about College Hill Celebrity Edition Season 2 set at Alabama State University. That first episode was crazy. It was a lot going on. It already feels like we're done with the season already. I was going to try to hit y'all with a back-to-back recap video, but I'm not even gonna lie, I got tired from the first one. It took me a long time to edit the first one. Then I started watching basketball. Then Friday came around. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I started watching the Power Leaks episode 9 and 10 because I love Power. So I had to put College Hill on the back burner, but now I'm back to give y'all a recap for the ages because this episode was very interesting. But before we start, I want to talk about some stuff in the College Hill universe. So the College Hill Season 2 premiere on BET's linear cable channel got 227,000 views. It aired on BET at 11 p.m. on May the 10th, the same night as the Donald Trump CNN Town Hall and the Lakers versus the Warriors. So College Hill held up pretty well in a really tough night with a lot of interesting things that was going on. Now, it's worth note last year that Season 1's premiere on BET happened the night of the BET Awards, and the BET Awards was the lead-in for the premiere preview of Season 1 at Texas Southern. And that premiere preview drew 854,000 viewers because they showed it in lieu of the BET Awards after party that they normally do. And that number makes a bunch of sense because of the BET Awards lead-in, but I don't think this number is bad. Because honestly, to be real true, I didn't know that BET was going to even show the preview on the actual BET linear cable channel. So the fact that they were able to draw that number, and like I said, you had the Donald Trump CNN Town Hall and the coverage, you had NBA basketball, a bunch of other things that were on at that time, and it was 11 p.m. I think that's a really great number. So College Hill is popular. Folks are watching and they really want to see what's going on. Now, granted, we don't know if these viewership numbers lead to subscriptions on BET Plus and views for the show, but we can only assume that it does, especially when you got Joseline Hernandez in the show, because a lot of folks were saying they were tuning in after they saw that Joseline and Amber got into that fight in the classroom. And now I showed y'all the picture of it. I didn't want to spoil it. If I spoiled it for y'all, I'm sorry. That's going to be coming up at a later time. But Joseline and Amber Rose got into a fight after Joseline questioned Amber Rose's blackness and said she didn't really want to be black. And speaking of Joseline, like I said, she's the draw. There's several videos flying around about her confrontation with New York and, of course, about her fight with Amber Rose. And a lot of folks who weren't aware of College Hill are saying that they now want to check out College Hill because Joseline is on it and they want to see all the drama. And I got this clip from an IG Live that Ray J did with Joseline in promotion of College Hill Celebrity Edition Season 2, where I think she tells us that she got kicked out of the house after the fight with Amber.
I just want you to understand. I just want you to be happy. When College up on me thinking he's sweet, I'm gonna tag that ass. And every time, hey, wait. Now I'm not.
That's not
every
right.
time I see you, I'm gonna tag that ass. That's totally
That's
okay.
not okay.
I love it. Y'all go download College Hill Celebrity Edition. Shout out to Tracy. We love Tracy. Shout out to everybody that helped
definitely
us
shout
put that
out to
together.
Tracy.
That helped me stay focused.
Yes, it was a really great
I'm going back
production.
next. I think I should get a chance to go back next year only because of the situation that happened, and I didn't get to my full potential. I was really close, but guidance are going to listen. Guidance are going to hate, and Puerto Rican princesses are going to get the check. You understand me?
Man, I understand why the folks on Twitter are asking, hey, what show is this and how can I watch it? I was surprised that folks didn't know it was back, but, it is what it is. They definitely need to go check it out because Joseline is a character. She might infuriate you, but I must admit, I cannot lie. This is entertaining television. We start episode 2 with Big Sean's song, Bounce Back. Last night took a L, but tonight I bounced back. And it was playing at an appropriate time because it was a big L going on, a whole bunch of losses going on in the cast house from the first episode. As we already know, you had Joseline that was at odds with Parker because she feels as if Parker is fake because she didn't personally come to her about being locked out the room, and her and New York got into it. Joseline had the whole energy of the house down. But nevertheless, even with Joseline acting crazy, the celebrities were still excited about going on Alabama State's campus for their first day of classes. We see Orion show back up on the screen after a montage of the celebrities getting ready for the day, and he talks about how he feels about getting ready for his official first day of classes. He talks about how he's nervous and reiterates how he never got the traditional school experience because, quote, his professional life started very young, and he was 17, releasing his first album in 2004. He says his job as a teenager basically robbed him of the college experience, and he's excited to dive back into the part he was missing in his life. I just want to say that I did some research into Brother Orion and his 2004 self-titled album, and you know what's so crazy? I saw that critics actually did like the album, and he had a nice song that I actually remember hearing. And I thought it was Omarion when I heard it back in the day, Take It Slow. That was his single from the album. But to be honest, Take It Slow didn't do well, and his album didn't chart well. So he didn't really take off like his other peers at the time. And then from what I saw, Usher took up a lot of oxygen in the room for that teen R&B singer lane. And then in 2005, you got Chris Brown that came out. So there was a lot of folks that were trying to occupy that lane and sing to the teenage girls at the time. So Orion had the talent. He could sing. He had a nice single. He was Omarion's brother. But at the same time, he wasn't Omarion, and there wasn't enough slots for everybody to eat when Usher was eating and then Chris Brown was about to eat. New York says she's up bright and early because she hasn't been to school in over 20 years, and she's nervous and unsure about how things are going to go, but she's also excited for what's to come. And I think that's all well and good. I mean, that is amazing, and that's very positive stuff from New York, but I got to be a little bit sarcastic because we're being sarcastic here. No one would have guessed that New York hasn't been to school since roughly 2002, as she said curriculum wrong multiple times and admitted she didn't know in that orientation what a stanza was. Now, when I saw that part of the episode, I hope that New York would stop all that playing and really tap into the education that she was getting. And I was hoping that New York would make me look foolish and succeed in the curriculum, and become the valedictorian. And to be honest, she just might, because I really liked how New York acted this episode. We then go to my girl Parker, who says she has good energy, good vibes, and that she's excited for her first day of classes. She was on her SpongeBob I'm ready swag. It was so crazy. And honestly, I know she's like a few months older than me, maybe a year, but it was low-key adorable. Like, I loved how hyped Parker was for classes, and she's my favorite cast member thus far. Like, she's so freaking cool. But of course, she's all excited, and she's real cool and mellow, and she's happy about the first day of classes. Then she walks into her room that she shares with Joseline, and Joseline is, of course, still mad and is still being mean to her after what we can deduce has been a few hours after the blow up that she had with the rest of the cast, and specifically with Parker over her being locked out, and they showed a flashback from the last episode of her entire ordeal with that. Meanwhile, Amber is in her room confiding to Quay that she's not a fan of how rude Joseline is acting. Now, I don't see how Joseline doesn't realize that she's being a bully and how she's talking tough and being really weird to the youngest member of the cast that literally has not a dramatic bone in her body. And she's reiterated a bunch of times that she does not like drama. And honestly, when you look at it, Parker, all of them in hindsight are cool. Although I personally was critical of how New York was acting, all of them in hindsight have been cool. But it just Parker has a different energy about her, and it really did not sit right with me how Joseline was treating her, because Parker didn't deserve that. Now, Amber was sort of being a little bit smug about being an atheist, and that's all true, and New York was being sort of nonsensical about her dogter. But man, what is Parker doing? I didn't see Parker talk except a few times in that first episode, and you going crazy at the girl that's just not even speaking? Like, that's just, to me, really weird. And I think even Joseline realizes that Parker is not on that crazy energy, because when she was going off on Parker, even though she called her a B this episode, she called Parker a very sneaky young lady, called her a young lady when they first got into the altercation. So it's just really crazy to me. So I just got to be honest. It just does not sit right with me in my spirit that Joseline's doing all that to Parker. And Amber is totally right. The energy that Joseline is bringing into the house is toxic, and there's no place for that in a learning environment. And we already knew what Joseline's fate was when she started the show like this, and she came into the mini semester for the certificate like this. Now, let me talk a little bit more about Joseline, because I have to talk about how she was literally taunting Parker as she was trying to go into the room to get things for her class, saying, quote, "Go tell the cast members Joseline locked the door again." So childish. Like I said, it doesn't sit right in my spirit that Joseline's being so insensitive and mean to Parker that did nothing wrong to her, and honestly kept it real with her that New York was talking about her dog instead of her actual daughter. It's crazy that she's taking it out on Parker when Parker was the one that told her. So next up, we flash to Amon telling Orion that he has to go to Atlanta to handle business and that he'll be missing a few days of school. He wants Orion to hold it down for him and take notes so he can make sure he's up on his work when he gets back. Amon says he's been to college once before, so he can catch up on what's happening and just get back into the flow if Orion just lets him know the basics. And he says in the confessional he talked to Dr. Petty and that he's working things out with her so he doesn't get penalized too much. And let's keep it a stack. It's going to be just like all the other celebrities that left, except ironically for Nene, because I don't think Nene's grade dropped when she left. But I think that this is going to be a big storyline moving forward, where Amon in those first couple classes, when they see their grade after the first couple classes, I think that Amon is going to be very unsatisfied, because it seemed like Amon missed a significant portion of days, because it had to have been like 2 or 3 days that they recounted in that second episode, and Amon wasn't around for none of it. And of course, Ray J, being the sophomore of the program, has overslept on the first day of school. Amber asked if anyone had seen Ray J, and we see him in his bed, knocked out. Amber went to check on him and eventually wake him up. And when she woke up Ray J, Amber said, quote, "I'm not going to let you fail this year," and says in the confessional that she's going to help Ray J stay on track. And I think that's dope that Amber's willing to do that, although she shouldn't have to, because Ray J is a grown man. He should be able to handle his business without someone holding his hand and looking over his shoulder. But when you're in college, I got to say this, you got to realize that we're all in this together like High School Musical, man, and we can't let each other get left behind. And that's something you find out really quickly in college, because I was the one that folks would ask, "Hey, Randall, I didn't come to class. What we talk about last class?" Like, I was that one that used to always ask. And sometimes when I wouldn't be there, like a couple times I wouldn't be there, I would rely on other people and ask them, "Can I see your notes? What happened in class? What was going on?" So you're all in this together. So I actually really like that from Amber, but I wonder how much of a help Amber is gonna be when she possibly gets kicked out for fighting with Joseline. But that's a whole other situation. So Ray J finally wakes up and gets a standing ovation from the cast, of course minus Joseline, for making it to breakfast on time. He says it's the first day of school. He's already irritated. They ask what they can expect from the first day of school, and he just shrugs his shoulders, and they all laugh. They think it's hilarious. And he says he's trying to understand who he is and why he's here, because he forgot he was here. Now, I don't necessarily know how Brother Ray J forgot he was still in college and on College Hill, Celebrity Edition Season 2 in Alabama. But it's also of note that he did want to get back on the show because no one was forcing him. He volunteered for himself because he wanted to get the goal of getting the certificate and completing college. But the crazy part about it to me is that Ray J isn't acting like he's been here before. How have you been enrolled in 3 colleges, including before Texas Southern? He was enrolled at Philander Smith College, which for y'all that don't know is an HBCU in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I remember when Ray J enrolled at Philander Smith, because everybody was excited and thought it was super dope that Ray J was trying to get his education. Like, this was way before people even thought about bringing College Hill back. So Ray J has had the experience. Now, I don't know if he actually did attend classes at Philander Smith. He got a hoodie, but like, it's just crazy that this is his 3rd college and he still can't understand what's at stake and how he needs to take things seriously. And you would think that he would be at the top of his game because he has the actual experience of being on College Hill Celebrity Edition and being in college last year. They're literally asking him for advice, and he's waking up late and trying to figure out why he's here because he forgot. And it's just so crazy that if you listen to my recap of episode 1 last year, I thought Ray J was going to be at the top of his game, and I thought that Ray J was going to start his dominance of College Hill, him being at top of the classes, when they did that group business project. But from there, it seemed like Ray J has just spiraled down, and it has been crazy, and I've just really been very disappointed in him. So next up, we see the cast getting ready to load up on the vans and head to campus, and of course, Joseline isn't ready. They cut to Joseline in her room that she locked Parker out of, trying on clothes and talking trash about the other castmates, not necessarily one person, but saying that, oh, these folks can't dress, they bums, I'm about to put on a fit. Like, she was just talking a whole bunch of trash. I don't know if it was to the cast members or it was just her talking trash to herself and just thinking out loud. But yeah, Joseline, of course, was talking trash in her room that she locked Parker out of. So of course it's two vans, and all the other castmates except for Ray J and Orion load onto the first van. And Orion and Ray J decided to stay because they did not want Joseline to be left out there alone and drive to school alone, even though she was a grown woman. They could have just drove her in the van. She could have decompressed, got on the phone. She probably would have been mad everybody loved her, but she would have asked the time to decompress and be to herself. I would have went on that first van. I'm not even going to hold you. So Ray J and Orion are waiting up for her, and Ray J went to check on her and let her know that they were ready to go. But he got impatient eventually and left because after he told Joseline that, she was still going slow. So him and Orion decided to load up on that second van and told the driver to go on. And they were just laughing about it, talking about, man, we're going to leave Joseline. She's still in out here. And then Joseline came out just the cussing. She was not feeling the fact that they were acting like they were about to leave her. The driver circled back around into the driveway. They went and got her. And Joseline tells Ray J off and says he's not being real with her, and she snaps on Orion for what she felt was him being rude and says he's fake too. Orion said that the first lesson he learned in college was not to poke bears. And I think that this spring, both Orion and Dylan Brooks, formerly of the Memphis Grizzlies, learned not to poke bears. If you know, you know.
I poke bears. I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40.
After the ride from the cast house, Orion walks immediately over to the other van once they got to campus and told the rest of the cast that was in the first van that he should have squeezed in with them, and I don't blame him for saying that. The rest of the cast is walking together, excited for the first day. They even take a selfie together. Meanwhile, Joseline is dragging behind, looking miserable. She's down at her phone. She's making calls. I would assume that at this point, she was calling Dr. Petty because we saw that Dr. Petty showed up later on in the episode. I thought she maybe was talking to her daughter, or maybe one of her friends that weren't in college. So I didn't know what was going on with that, but Joseline had a lot to get off of her chest. So Joseline was going in on her confessional. She says that she gets why they don't like her and that she's cool with being the villain. She says she didn't come to College Hill to play a role and that the world has deemed her a villain. And the part I thought was crazy when I heard this whole entire part is that Joseline understands that she is indeed the villain. Like, that has been her role for her whole entire reality TV show career, but she's not accepting that she's the bully or the problem. I think it's deeper than her being the villain and the antagonist. There's a reason why they, quote, don't like you, Joseline. It was so wild to me that she was oblivious to it. And just the victim complex that she showed here is wild. Like, she's really gaslighting herself into thinking that she's not the problem. So they head to the first class on the schedule, which is African American literature, taught by Dr. Jacqueline Trimble, who serves as the department chair. Parker notes that they're going to class with real ASU students, just a few of them, and Parker says that she's nervous to be in class because it's been 10 years since she was in real school. And remember, I don't want to divulge folks' age. I'm not trying to be rude, but I want to give it perspective. Parker is 27 years old. So 10 years ago, she was finishing up high school. She was about to turn 18, and she was about to be college age. So I'm guessing she didn't go to college. So this is her first little hint of school in the past 10 years for my girl, man. So Dr. Trimble starts to get into teaching the class when she sees Ray J recording video on his phone. Ray J said he's recording what she's saying, so if anyone asks what needs to be done, they can just go back to the video, because last time he got hit with plagiarism and he doesn't want to do that this time. Ray J says he wants to graduate this time in his confessional and that he's 1000% focused. Well, we know he's not 1000% focused. And if you don't want to get hit with plagiarism, don't plagiarize. Like, I'm just confused. Like, don't plagiarize. Like, don't steal nobody's work and say it's yours. I think it's pretty easy not to plagiarize. It's pretty easy, to be honest with you. But recording the lecture, to be honest, coming from a college student, college alumni perspective, isn't a bad idea about Ray J at all, but he should have used a voice memo instead. It's more inconspicuous. You get the chance to hear the audio. Now, of course, if she's writing stuff on the board, and typically in math class, you want to record the video because you want to see the formulas and the different things and the ways that the professor is getting to the conclusion when it comes to the math problem. But when it comes to literature and history, it's more so something that you listen to. So I think that's a good idea. Ray J wasn't completely off, but just the recording thing was really crazy, because you're telling me, Ray J, that on your phone, where you most likely don't have storage because you have all types of photos and music and contacts in your phone, you're telling me you're going to hold your hand up and record Dr. Trimble speaking the whole entire lecture. That all makes sense. Make it easier for yourself, Ray J, and whoever's listening, and just record the voice memo on your phone. And I used to do it all the time when I was in school, especially in my literature and history courses. So that's a major key, and Ray J wasn't totally off about that. But don't do a video camera. Don't use your video camera and do a video. Just use voice memo. It works 1000%. So they get into the lesson and start talking about orature, which is spoken, and literature, which is written. Dr. Trimble talks about how this is relative to how we passed on information and stories to one another and through generations. She then asked if anyone in the class was familiar with spirituals. And you know, two things happen if you're watching and listening to the recap and watching the show on BET+. New York volunteered to sing a spiritual off key, and Amber rolled her eyes because she hates everything to do with religion. And it's just sort of odd because it's like spiritual. You say spiritual, and Amber, who has the glasses on so you can't see her full expression, it's just like Amber just shakes her head in disapproval. So New York says she was raised in the church, and she started going to church when her mother was first pregnant with her at the age of 17. Dr. Trimble asked what's her favorite, and she starts singing a spiritual super off key, and Amber is visibly not pleased, as we know that she is an atheist and doesn't want to hear anything remotely associated with religion. Amber then asked the class if there's a such thing as the, quote, black church. The cameras turn to Quay, and he's looking so uncomfortable, and it's just so crazy. And I feel for Quay, but it's also sort of funny. Amber expounds upon her question, saying, quote, technically there is, but the slave masters instilled Christianity into black people. And I'm not mad at Amber raising this point in class, because college is supposed to be about the expression of ideas. And by the way, college is not what a lot of these conservative Republicans are making it out to be. College is not an indoctrination system. College is really, truly the exchange of ideas and the debate of ideas. That's what college is. So what Amber said didn't really make me upset, and I didn't look at her crazy. But if Amber's going to be at an HBCU, and specifically in an African-American literature and history class, she's going to have to realize that a huge part of the story when it comes to our people deals with religion. I got to get deep on y'all for a second. I'm going to be real quick. Hope is a higher power that's always been a salvation for black folks, and it's a part of our story whether we like it or not, because sometimes that's all we had. All we had was that hope and faith that things were going to get better, and the faith to work to make sure that we enacted a change. That's all we had. And that's what you learn at an HBCU in an African-American history course, and even an African-American literature course, where we're talking about literature and orature and stories passed down from generations. I honestly think that Amber needs to open her mind, and if she's going to stay in her shell whenever religion is mentioned, she's not going to learn anything. But I'll say this as well, because I'm going to be equal opportunity. I think that Quay needs to open his mind and step out of his shell as well. If Quay puts himself in a shell and protects himself from the intellectual nuance of engaging with someone that does not have the same beliefs as him, he's going to be in a shell, and he's also not going to learn anything. And he's going to be very uncomfortable in every philosophical type of class, and especially anything dealing with black history that Amber is in with him. Now, here's the thing. Dr. Trimble engaged Amber well. She said to Amber's point that, like everything else, black people took what was given to them and did something else with it. And I thought that was powerful, and that's the same thing I would have said, albeit it would have been very longer formed, as y'all can see. Dr. Trimble gives the class a discussion assignment, asking them to talk about their relationship with the black church, even if they don't like church or Christianity. And man, when Amber heard about that assignment and the last part, she said, say less. Because you already know Amber's about to write a whole entire op-ed on Christianity and religion. Amber's probably gonna get an A in this class and on this first assignment. So next they go to their history course taught by Dr. Howard Robinson and Dr. Maurice Robinson. Now I know Robinson is a very common name in the black community. Well, are they related? Because I'm not even gonna hold you. That's way too odd for it to be a coincidence that both their last names are Robinson and they're both doctors. It's something else. So Dr. Howard Robinson stands at the podium almost like a preacher and lectures them about the basics of white supremacy and how it manifested itself through time. He then finds himself talking about religion and how the European colonizers felt as if it was their mission to spread the philosophies and ideas of Christianity to those that didn't believe. Dr. Robinson says that religion played an important role in the justification of slavery. Of course, Amber was all in for this class. She started clapping and she was saying, yeah, that's right. Like she was actually in church, showing that she was in agreement with what was being taught. She basically at every point was saying amen. And I want to just say this really quickly. Amber is being really smug about not believing in Christianity or religion, and that's cool and all to me. Like I said, I respect her views. In college, you're supposed to be the exchange of opinions, but it's almost like she's throwing it in Quay's face at a point because she starts to see how that makes Quay look, and Parker talks about it, and everybody sort of sees that when they talk about religion, Quay is not with it. He just gets really squeamish, and I just think that Amber is throwing it in his face, and she's 1,000% wrong for that because no one was doing that to her. And the only person that was sort of doing it in a way, but not really, was New York because she's saying the spiritual. But I mean, Dr. Trimble asked her what spiritual she liked and what was her favorite. So New York wasn't even doing that to be intentional. So no one is throwing in their face, I'm a Christian, praise the Lord, let's pray, let's hold our hands and say grace. No one's, at least from what we're seeing, no one's doing that. But Amber's the main one saying, yep, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in Christianity, I don't believe in religion, I'm an atheist. Like she's the main one doing that, and I think it's wrong, and now she's being a bit smug, and she shouldn't be doing that. So Dr. Robinson opens up the floor for questions, and Parker says that her mom is white and her dad is black, so the topics being presented are sort of uncomfortable for her. And this gets interesting right here. New York then says her fiance is white, and every time she sees injustice done to black people, she can't look at him anymore, and he makes her sick in that moment. She says her household gets divided and that she feels in that moment that she's turning her back on her people. Now, first and foremost, I'm not going to like joke about the premise of it. I think that's powerful, and I can understand that duality of loving black culture and wanting black folks to succeed, but at the same time, you feel like you're betraying your people for not being with another black person. So I can totally understand that. I've never been in that situation, but I can totally understand that dual feeling. And also, I got to commend New York because this was one of the first times that I think New York was just really being authentic and not a character in these first two episodes. I think she was really speaking from the heart and she was being vulnerable. Now, granted, I got to bring some levity into this. I really hope New York's fiance never watches College Hill because I'm very sure if he watches this show and specifically this episode of how she's talking about him, that engagement is most definitely going to be off, and then New York's going to go marry a black man because, like, at this point, I know that I try to be very secure and I try to support my people, but if you say this about me on a TV show and I find out, I'm not even going to lie. We're going to have some real conversations, but I applaud New York for being vulnerable. I'm just saying that maybe I wouldn't be that vulnerable in that moment if I was with her and I was her white fiance. Now, Dr. Robinson says he wants to cast the pair up because they're going to be doing some group projects that he wants them to do together. The camera pans to all of their faces, and they already know that it's going to be a problem because of the tension that Joseline has created. And then also you sort of have Amber as well as Quay at odds, and they're cool. You know, they're living in the same room and all of that, but you can just tell that Quay is not rocking with Amber when it comes to her being an atheist. Now she's throwing it in everyone's faces. So, of course, Joseline has to break the ice and say that out loud that she's the outcast of the house and that the cast has outcasted her. And Ray J, I was sort of surprised that he did this. He says she outcasted herself and she brought this on herself, which is very real. So Dr. Robinson didn't allow the tension to take over the class and spoke to them about an interesting parallel of how many of the members of the civil rights movement didn't like each other, but they worked together for the greater good of the cause. And to be quite honest with you, I think that was powerful. And once again, it seems as if the producers of College Hill are sprinkling in some positivity in the midst of the drama. And I love it because I think a lot of people that are watching, they do know what's going on and they are pro-black and they are working within the interests of the black community. And this is just entertainment for them. But I think there's a lot of young folks that are watching that aren't in college. They're in high school. I think there's a lot of folks that didn't go to college. I think there's a lot of folks that know enough about black history to be dangerous, but they don't know about the inner depths of black history. And these are the things that you learn at an HBCU. And I love that between Joseline locking folks out their room and New York acting crazy over her dog and all the other hijinks, I really like that we're seeing them in college classes and they're learning a lot of real knowledge. Now, after the class, Ray J sticks around and basically admits that he's been radicalized by conservatives. He says that he's been hanging around Candace Owens and even has had dinner with Trump, although we saw that last season because he left and then the cast saw on their phones in season 1 that Ray J and Kodak Black had a dinner meeting with Trump, which they all were pretty disgusted by. Now, to start off my take on Ray J in this whole entire scene from the episode, which I really want to be quick and nuanced, he really needs this class. I think he's really going to enjoy this class. And it seems as if he's already enjoying the class. And hopefully he takes his time at Alabama State seriously because he's going to learn some good stuff and get some really good knowledge. Now, let me talk about what he talked about with the Dr. Robinsons. And he talked about being a black conservative and asked if it was wrong. And he talked about how his granddad was in the civil rights movement, but he's been around Candace Owens and he met with Trump and all these different things. And I just want to say this. There's nothing wrong with being a black conservative or a black Republican, because at the end of the day, that's just what you believe. But if you believe that and you're acting and talking about black folks and saying black folks can't do this and black folks need to do that and oh, black on black crime in Chicago and all this stuff, that are these talking points that make black folks look bad and people swear, oh, black folks need to stop voting for the Democrats and go to the Republican Party or become conservatives. I think we have to be honest about the ideologies of conservatism. And if the conservative agenda at any point in history, now hear me out, I'm not saying the Republican or Democratic agenda, I'm talking about the specific conservative agenda, because we know that the parties sort of swapped ideologies. And they say, oh, Dr. King was a Republican and Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, but we know that they swapped ideologies. So we know that. But ask yourself if the typical conservative position has always been in the best interest of black people. Because let's run down a list real quick. The civil rights of black folks was not a conservative issue. Voting rights for black people was not a conservative cause, and it isn't now. The rights of women weren't a conservative issue, and it isn't now. I just think you have to lay that out there and look at the bigger picture and look critically at the black agenda and which side is the best fit to advance said agenda. I'll just leave that there and hope y'all picking up what I'm putting down, because this is supposed to be a fun review. It's not supposed to be super political and super critical. But I'm going to say this about Ray J. Just to be 1,000% honest, Ray J is our brother, but we're not looking at Ray J as a voice of reason. He can have his beliefs, but he was acting in his confessional as if he's some type of black leader that folks like are going to look up to and look to for political conversations and ideologies and ways to think. I don't think that the majority of folks, especially black folks, look at Ray J for that. They look at Ray J for entertainment. And that's okay. If Ray J wants to turn into someone that can be taken seriously, he needs to educate himself. But as of right now, brother, you don't got to worry about helping nobody or saying nothing to nobody. Just educate yourself. Focus on yourself, and then we'll be all good, all right? Now, Dr. Petty is outside of the building waiting to talk to Joseline. Joseline actually called her to talk to her after all that was going on in the house. Now, Joseline feels as if she's being singled out in the house and that they're making her out to be the villain, as she said earlier. Meanwhile, the rest of the cast are talking about her comment of how she thinks they're making her feel like an outcast. New York says something I thought was so real, and I really liked New York in this episode, as I'll say once again. She said you can't make anyone be a part of a group, and that is 1,000% the truth. Now, Joseline said that she's here to try to be the best she can be, but they're getting in her way, and she's not making this up. And she's totally making this up, Dr. Petty. But Dr. Petty already knows what time it is. She is a higher education professional. She's in the college game, so she already knows how folks can be and how a lot of these folks tell one side of the story. She tells Joseline that her job is to be cordial because she didn't leave her daughter to get this certificate to deal with BS. And she really said that. She came because she wanted to return with something to show her daughter. When she said that to Joseline, it really seems as if that struck an emotional chord with her. Dr. Petty told her not to worry about other people and stay on point for her goal of getting the certificate. And seeing that vulnerability from Joseline was really refreshing. I'm not a big reality TV show watcher like that. I watched a little bit of Love and Hip Hop, and I incidentally kept up with Joseline because she was everywhere on social media back in the mid 2010s. You literally could not escape her. And I've never just seen this from her. I've not seen this level of vulnerability. And I think this struck a great chord for where the end of the episode was going. And I thought that Joseline was going to lock in and really not be on her crazy stuff and really lock in, get cool with everybody, stop arguing, and get her education. But of course, we know as a spoiler that that didn't happen as we look later on down the line at those other episodes and the exclusives that we've gotten about what has happened. So we cut to Orion in New York, and they're on the yard having a conversation with two freshman students. And Orion actually walked up and interrupted them and got in their conversation because New York was talking to them about having sister locks, and New York said that she wants to get locked. So, of course, Orion comes over, super charismatic, good brother, and, the freshmen are like, oh my gosh, look at him. And then you have New York that's just swooning over him, and they have a real cool conversation, and you already know I thought it was dope because I wanted to see the celebrities interact with both the campus as well as the students, and we know at Texas Southern, they couldn't really do that because of a lot of COVID restrictions at that time. But it's hard to focus on all of that when New York is clearly feeling some type of way about Orion. And she was in that confessional. She had her loving eyes on. Like, she was talking about how charming he was after she just said she looks at her white fiance with disgust when black folks get done wrong. And to be honest, like I said again, she might as well call off that engagement right now because I think Orion is definitely going to get at New York and some things are going to go down. It just seems like that's where it's progressing. We saw a little bit of a preview. I want to see the lead up to how New York decided to make a hot tub for Orion and get all the stuff going. I wonder if that really was for him or if that was a swerve. But I honestly think that at some point, Orion and New York are going to get together. So that relationship is called off. And if Orion's in a relationship, that's called off too. So we get to the house and we find out that Ray J doesn't know how to wash clothes. So Amber teaches him how. Amber really has been helping out Ray J a lot. And Ray J was saying he has a housekeeper. He doesn't know how to wash clothes. I just thought that was odd because I'm like, I guess I know you've been rich your whole life, but washing clothes, to be honest, is sort of self-explanatory for a grown adult. Now, I don't have a lot to contribute to that one outside of this, but the only thing I can say is no disrespect to Brother Ray J, with all due respect. If you don't know how to do your laundry, you don't know about politics, and you can't not help the community with politics and policies. Maybe Candace Owens, when they meet next time, if Amber didn't get it right, maybe Candace Owens can teach Ray J how to wash clothes. I'm just saying. Shout out to Ray J. I got love for Ray J, but come on, man. Now, Amber, Quay, New York, Parker, and Orion sit outside, and they eventually lead to a conversation about Amber's feelings regarding Christianity. At first, they were just casually talking about it. Then all of a sudden, Amber almost descended into a stand-up talking about the hypocrisy of Christians. And man, Quay couldn't handle it. He walked away, and Amber peeped he walked away, and I thought it was a tough situation. Parker goes to check on him and smooth things over, and that's why she's my favorite cast member. Parker is cool. She's the mediator. Parker made sure Quay was good. They got something to drink, gave Quay a hug, and she soothed things over. And we love to see it, man. I love Parker. I'm telling you, I'm not lying to y'all. Like, Parker is my favorite cast member on the show. She's around my same age, and she just be kicking it, and she is cool. She's holding it down outside that Joseline thing, which is not her fault. Now, we then see a montage of the cast members talking to their children. Orion is talking to his daughter, and he introduces his daughter to Parker, and also he shows his daughter to the camera, breaking the fourth wall. So Orion then goes a little bit deeper into his relationship with his daughter and her mother, Janae Aiko. Orion says that his daughter is his world. He says that Janae was starting to blow up in music, so he decided to be a stay-at-home dad. He gets emotional as he ends the call with her, which I thought was a very touching moment to see. And I want to just say, and I'm recording this the day before Mother's Day, but Black fathers matter and Black families matter. Shout out to Orion for being such a great dad. So there were a lot of heartwarming scenes to end this episode, and we're going to really get into it. I really like the end of the episode, but I just want to acknowledge one thing before we get to the good stuff. New York, Amber, and Parker, I don't know if Amber and Parker were playing, but all three of them cannot say curriculum, and I guess they didn't really know what it was. And I just want to say that George W. Bush is going to pay for his crimes with that No Child Left Behind policy, because I think a lot of children were left behind. But God bless them, okay? If they want to say curriculum wrong, listen, say it. Just get the certificate and expand your mind. It's just sort of, it was just sort of crazy. It's funny, but it's like, bro, curriculum? It's just crazy they can't say it. So anyway, Parker, Quay, Amber, and New York all take a shot and pledge to support each other in this journey. They then decide to go out together to a Black-owned spot in Montgomery and hang out. So Ray J stays behind with Joseline so she won't be left out as the rest of the cast headed to the Black-owned restaurant. Joseline once again takes forever to get ready and eventually pops out with sparkles and some cowboy boots like she's at the Met Gala. And Ray J actually did say that, but I wrote it down before he said that. When they got to the dinner, it looked like the rest of the cast was ready to call for the check because they were already done. They had their conversation. They had fun. Like they were ready to go. And I want to just say that she said that Ray J wasn't being real with her, but notice that every time that Joseline was held back, getting ready and everything, Ray J was the one that stayed with her. First at the beginning of the episode when they were getting ready to go to Alabama State's campus, and now this time. Like Ray J is really riding for her and trying to make sure that she's straight. I want to just say Ray J was really being a real one because it was up to me. I would have went and got that food with the rest of the cast. Y'all tripping. So as Ray J and Joseline are pulling up to the restaurant, the rest of the cast has a conversation about Joseline. And New York, like I said, she was the MVP of this episode to me. She was respectfully leading the conversation, and I really loved it. And like I keep saying, she was a different animal from that first episode. She was totally different. She really toned it down. And to be honest with y'all, I think she did it for Orion because she's trying to get at Orion, and I think she don't want to look crazy in front of Orion. So like she's been funny and she's been, really charming, but she ain't been screaming, going crazy, doing all that crazy stuff she was doing in the first episode. I think she's trying to impress Orion. So Quay makes it a point to say that he's open to Joseline because he's open to everyone, and Amber just simply cannot understand it. She keeps asking, but why? But why? And Quay eventually says, because I'm a Christian and I love love. And I'm like, Quay, come on, bro. That comment was not needed. He just can't get off Amber being an atheist. Just get over it, man. She's an atheist. She doesn't believe in God. She doesn't believe in Christianity. Get over it. Now, like I said, she's been smug about it, but just get over it, bro, because at the end of the day, like a moral compass is a moral compass. Your moral compass can be led by religion, or your moral compass can be led by your beliefs and how you were taught. And I don't think that Amber was wrong because number one, Joseline was acting crazy. But then you see Amber get into the weeds and be vulnerable about how she's dealt with a lot of traumatic experiences in her life and how she's been hurt and betrayed by the people she loves. And she picks up on it at the table because she started in a confessional. She picks up on it at the table saying that's the reason why she isn't for toxicity. Amber says she made a promise to herself to cut off anyone that gives her one red flag. So one red flag and you're done. Amber had every right to feel that way. She's reacting to the energy that Joseline gave her. So it doesn't make her a bad person because she's not a Christian and she doesn't like people acting crazy towards her and other people that she's trying to get to know. I don't think that's wrong. You know what I'm saying? I think Amber was wrong a little bit in these episodes, but I don't think she was wrong necessarily for that. So we get to the good part of the episode. So Joseline and Ray J finally made it to the table and the energy was immediately sucked away. Amber said she made it there 2 hours late And I don't know if that was an exaggeration, but I believe it. Let's say she actually did make it there 2 hours late and they were ready to pick up the check. So Amber then recounted how she was about to go out and smoke and then she had to use the restroom thinking Joseline was back at the table. Man, when I heard that, I thought it was about to go down and Joseline and Amber were about to have their first face-off that was going to lead to the fight later on in the season. But surprisingly, things were cordial, and I really like that. So Amber and Joseline had a conversation, and Amber let it be known how she felt and how she didn't like how Joseline was yelling and all these different things. And then Joseline, really accepted it, and she listened. The whole entire conversation ended peacefully. Amber got a lot off her chest. And even Joseline got some stuff off her chest. Then New York came in and she made amends with Joseline. And then Quay joined in once they left out of the restroom. And like I said, this was my favorite moment of the episode. I like how things cooled down and how everything was level-headed. But I did notice something. I just want to say this. And if y'all are in the comments, y'all are listening, let me know if I'm wrong or let me know if I'm missing something. I watched this episode twice, including for this review, and I noticed that there was clearly some situation between Amber and Joseline that required things to be smoothed over, and Joseline even said that she didn't have a problem with her or him, and I would assume talking about Quay, and said, I wasn't even mad at you or him. I kind of did that because y'all are roommates. And she's clearly talking about Quay because that is Amber's roommate. And I'm just trying to figure out, looking back at the episode, what exactly are y'all talking about? Because I don't think we've seen Joseline directly get into it with Quay or Amber yet. Now, Quay and Amber have gotten into it. They've had their back and forth, but I don't remember them getting into it with Joseline. I think that maybe we have a situation where they did a time hop and they put this scene in because it perfectly fit with how the house was already feeling about Joseline. And maybe, we'll get, more details into the rift that Amber and Joseline had. And also the clear issue that Joseline and Quay had, because I guess that was what they were alluding to. But just watching this episode twice and taking notes, pausing so many times, I honestly didn't see the angle of that conversation and why it went like that. But in the final scene of the episode, we see Ray J about to head to the airport. He says he has the role because he has something to do, after saying multiple times, and the show highlighted it, that he wants to be serious about getting his education. And it seemed as if he just dipped off without really telling anyone outside of us in the confessional. And honestly, I'm not a betting man, but we got to figure out the over and under on Ray J making it through this season, because honestly, I flip-flop on the odds all the time. And if you're a betting person and you put money on the under that he stays or over that, I'm not a betting person, but I'm just saying, you put money on him leaving, it looks like you might be in good company, because I don't know if Ray J stays this season. But I have a feeling he will. I have a feeling he will, but I don't think Joseline and Amber stay because of their fight. But that was episode 2. I thought it was really dope, and I love how it ended. And I felt as if the College Hill producers were really intentional with showing a lot of positivity, and they dedicated a lot of the episode to showing in-class instruction and a lot of pertinent conversations. But thank you so much for listening to my review of College Hill Season 2. It's only going to get better from here. Make sure to follow HBCU Pulse on Instagram and YouTube at HBCU Pulse, Twitter and TikTok, the HBCU Pulse. Make sure to listen to HBCU Pulse Radio on SiriusXM, Channel 142, HBCU, every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central. If you want to donate to HBCU Pulse, donate any amount to $HBCU Pulse or paypal.me/HBCU Pulse. And I will see you on the other side, and I'll catch you in the next video where we're talking about all things College Hill.
Like what you hear?
Yeah.
Subscribe to HBCU Pulse Radio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, head to HBCUPulse.com to stay up to date on what's going on in the HBCU community. Thank you for listening to HBCU Pulse Radio.